Good morning. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020. Everybody knows about Warren Buffett. Stories about him, folksy sayings that he shares, obviously his great wealth, but also how he chooses to spend it. I have a bit of an inside track. My brother-in-law is the head of Israel Bonds in Pennsylvania. And several years ago, he reached out to Warren Buffett to solicit an investment into Israel Bonds, and Warren Buffett agreed. And since then, they have met a number of times. Warren Buffett has agreed to do events for Israel Bonds and is a generous supporter. And my brother-in-law tells me that the stories that people tell about him, how down to earth, how real, how much of a feeling person he is, those stories are all true. I did not know until yesterday about Doris Buffett. Doris Buffett is the older sister of Warren, and she passed away at the age of 92. There's an article in the New York Times by Sam Roberts that describes Doris and her life and her work. And it is absolutely remarkable to me the incredible way in which her life and her behavior is in sync with Jewish values and Jewish practices. So, years ago, Warren Buffett entrusted his sister and a group of women that she had recruited to sift through the thousands and thousands of financial requests that he receives and to assess their merits and to help him decide to whom money would be given, and then to monitor the impact of those gifts that had been granted after they were granted. Ms. Buffett, Doris Buffett, refused to give money to what she called the SOBs, symphonies, operas, and ballets. She did not give money to them. But she concentrated on the underprivileged. She once said, "I do consider these as investments rather than giveaways." Sounds like it's coming from one of the Buffetts, but listen to what she says. "I do consider these as investments rather than giveaways, and I'm looking for a good return on them. The best return is when lives change for the better in some way. That's the commanding thought behind all I do." And I was just thinking about the structure of priorities in the mitzvah of tzedakah and how high a mitzvah it is, not simply to give a handout, but to do it in a way that helps to change someone's life. Doris had a difficult childhood. She once said, "If there was no fairy godmother for me, maybe I could be one for others." And that also is such an important lesson. There are people who go through hardships, and because of those hardships or challenges or difficulties, they become embittered, and they become less willing to look out for others. And then there are people who go through challenges and difficulties and hardships and make it a point to use their experience to try to make sure that no one else has to go through that no one else has to feel what they were meant to feel. And Doris was in that category. Warren Buffett spoke about his sister. He said, "Some people write a large number of checks. Others invest a large amount of time and effort in choosing their beneficiaries. Doris does both. She's smart about how she does it as well, combining a soft heart with a hard head. Mr. Buffett explained what that means, a soft heart with a hard head. He explained, if you created your own problems, don't bother to call Doris. But then he said, she, like him, wanted most of her fortune to be spent on solving problems in her lifetime. He said about her, she really wanted her last check to bounce. And that's a great insight. I recently read a quote which said, there's nothing wrong with being a billionaire, but there is something deeply immoral with dying as a billionaire. When we have been given abundance by God, we should be using it to help God's children. That's why the extra amount was given to us. Doris Buffett. What a beautiful value system and a beautiful way of implementing that in helping thousands and thousands of people over her lifetime. May her memory be a blessing. My friends, I wish you a great day. Have a wonderful Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon in person.